Okay, they moved, they changed their name, and where I lived was not an American vacation spot. One of my witnesses is from Johannesburg, South Africa. The other one is from Dintiken, Switzerland. The other one's from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And it took me years to find these people. And by then, of course, all my time limits expired. That's the real game. Is they make the time limit so short that A, if you are innocent, you're unable to obtain the evidence in the time frame that you have to file. Okay? Or B, you're unable to learn the law fast enough to meet the time limit. Because your learning curve has to be exceptional for you to be able to meet the time limits, and they know that. I mean, here's the perfect thing. In my book, I advocate the abrogation of the procedural default doctrine in federal habeas corpus. And the reason is, I agree with the exhaustion doctrine. I agree that the state should have the first opportunity to correct any mistake that they make. I agree with that. But what if the state doesn't create or have a forum in which for that to be heard in a timely manner? What happens if it takes the person beyond the state's time limits for you to find your evidence? Why is there no exception? You go in on a motion for new trial, and by the time you get to federal court, the biggest problem you run into is if you have absolute proof that you're innocent in federal court on federal habeas corpus, it's not a cognizable claim. Simple proof that you're innocent is not a cognizable claim in a federal writ of habeas corpus. You have to prove a constitutional violation at your trial. Now, if you miss a time limit in state court because you can't get this evidence or you can't learn the law fast enough, and you get to federal court, then they hold you procedurally default. You can't, and United States v. Reed says that if they can find a procedural reason to dismiss your writ of habeas corpus, they don't have to look at the merits. They don't have to look at your evidence. They don't have to look at anything. My question is, why should you, as a citizen of the United States, lose the protections of the United States Constitution because you committed a technical procedural error in state court? So if you do away with the procedural default doctrine, yet give the state the opportunity to hear the case and comply with the exhaustion doctrine, but yet if they refuse, still hear the case on the merits in federal court, you're protecting the citizens under the Constitution. And it would reduce a lot of wrongful convictions and allow a lot of wrongful convictions to be corrected at the federal court level. These are things I discussed in my book.
How did you learn about law so well?
I taught myself. Look, I'm not trying to blow my horn, all right? My IQ ranks in the 99.4 percentile. I read roughly 700 words a minute in leisure reading, and transcripts and so on around 300 words a minute. I sat down and taught myself as well. And I had three excellent jailhouse lawyers that helped me. Donald Harmon, Jerry McMeans was there at the time, and I can't remember his name. God love him, and I can picture him in my mind.
Is it
three of them?
Is it Gospel?
No, it wasn't Gospel. It was Doug Mills. Doug Mills was who it was. No, it was
I didn't know.
Yeah, it was Doug Mills is who it was. Doug had actually been a jailhouse lawyer in San Quentin, and then was LaGrange, and then ended up at Warren. And
I heard you taught a lot of the people that's out here now that, a lot of the legal stuff, while they were inside, you taught them how to do some of the work. Beverly mentioned you.
I'm sorry, who?
Beverly mentioned you helped her.
I taught Beverly the law through the mail for about 15 years when she was at Marysville, Franklin Free Release. I had a network of jailhouse lawyers. In fact, that's how the Tussle suit got started.
Right.
I was at Lucasville, and Rodney Fussell was, in L3, with me. I was in L330, and he was right down below me on the first range, and he had hepatitis C, and they wouldn't treat him because the treatments were so expensive. Well, I helped him with his grievances, and then we both got rode out to Lebanon, and Gary Roberts was in G block, F block at Lebanon. He had hepatitis C. I helped him do his grievances, and they just kept refusing. They were just letting these guys die. I mean, they were letting them develop liver cancer and die. They didn't care. Well, I had gotten my teeth cleaned once every 6 months, all the time I was in, and they turned around and cut me the funding for dinner in '99. And I put in to get my teeth cleaned, and they said, yeah, you're on the list. Well, 5 months later, I hadn't heard anything. I went back again, yeah, you're on the list. Well, I filed, funnier than that, there was a nurse in Lebanon named Dawn, and she was just as nice as she could be. She had long black hair, clear down here, and was just as sweet as she could be, and she ended up dying of brain cancer. She was really something else. And I went in, they called me in for my yearly physical. And I'm sitting there, and I said, no, I said, why do you give me a yearly physical? She said, well, that's community standards of care, Mr. Law. And I said, well, why can't I get my teeth cleaned? And she said, you need to sue these people. And I said, okay, I can do that. So I sat down and did my grievances on dental all the way up to the chief inspector's office, and they came back and told me that cleaning of teeth with a category 3 or 4 services generally will not be provided. That was the answer. And in the meantime, I'm arguing, look, periodontal disease has been linked to heart disease, it's been linked to a lot of different problems. I said, you can't just, and Billy Snow has had to pull 3 of his own teeth because he couldn't find a dentist or get into the dentist.
I'm not pulling out.
He had to pull 3 of his own teeth. That was David Snow's brother, by the way, and David was up at OSP for a long time. I don't know. You know him?
I don't know him, Joe might know him, but.
Yeah, well, you would know of him.
That name sounds familiar. Was he at Luke?
David was at Luke, and David was OSP for a long time.
Because I was at Luke around 98, 97.
Yeah, David's actually dead now. He got out and got back into the Fed system, and they killed him at Victorville. He died. But anyway, I put in the grievances and everything for the fossil suit, and they just blew me off. So I got a hold of Gary, and I got a hold of Rodney, and I got a hold of David Singleton down at the Ohio Justice and Policy Center, and I talked to him. I talked to Sheila down there, Sheila Donaldson. She answers the phone, and I sent in the grievances, and I sent some letters, and they had dealt with me in some other cases. And I turned around, and they sent Carol Camp out to Lebanon. And we're out in the visiting room, and she said, you know, David and Al Gerhardstein are just not convinced that this is as big a problem as what you're saying it is. And I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, give me 3 weeks. She said, what do you mean? Just give me 3 weeks. So she left. I went back to my cell and got out my typewriter and a little 15-point wheel, and I typed Ohio Justice and Policy Center, attention Carol Camp, 617 Vine Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202, and across and all the way down, took it down, had a copy, got a razor blade, cut out some, had other sheets, talked about the jailhouse lawyer network, that's where I'm coming from. Jerry McNeese down at Warren, I sent him one. I said, Jerry, look, I said, go out in the yard, I said, get copies of this, get up to groups of guys, and anybody that's ask them if they're having trouble with medical or dental. And I said, if they are, hand them this address, tell them write this letter, get the lady a letter. I sent one to Tom Waters at I think Tom was at Pickleway. I sent one to Matt Mason, you know Matt Mason. He was at Mansfield at that time. And I told them, I said, look, the other guys we're in contact with, send it to them also and ask them to do the same thing. Well, 3 weeks later, I picked up the phone and called Ohio Justice and Policy Center. And Sheila answered the phone. She said, Mr. Love, Carol's been waiting on your call. And she put me through to Carol Camp, and Carol Camp says, I have 400 letters laying on my desk. That's how fast it started. They did it, and it ran from 2003. I'm sorry, what?
What was the name of the, first name of the vessel?
It was, Rodney Fussell.
Because there's a Jim Fussell up at Marion. He's quite an
Rodney
artist.
Fussell's dead.
Oh, I know.
They let, Rodney and Gary has still not been treated with, hepatitis C. And he was one of the class plants. In fact, you all need to know that you need to contact everybody you're in contact with in the prison system. And you need to put them in contact with Mark Vanderlaan, VanDerLAAN, at the Ohio Justice and Policy Center. There is a case for Jeffrey Mann that's in front of the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. Mr. Mann, case, his complaint was written by Matt Mason, and it went in front of magistrate.
It was in Franklin County.
Anyway, George Smith ended up being the judge, and he dismissed it. The ACLU has picked it up, all right? And the Ohio Justice and Policy Center is in the process of getting involved. They're going to turn it into the new Fussell suit. It's medical problems. They've had 39 or 38 medical deaths at Grafton in the last 2 years. And the problem.
Madison too, isn't it?
Madison has had, one guy was told he was constipated, so they gave him laxatives. And he went back and he said, nothing's working. They said, oh, just do some more. Within 2 months, he died of cancer, stomach cancer.
Yeah, that sounds like Newman at Allen.
I mean, he went like, boom.
Yeah.
Dead.
Because it wasn't treated. If he was treated, he could have survived. If he was treated, he could have survived it.
Yeah, well, that's another problem too, and this is another thing nobody wants to acknowledge or believe. A lot of the county coroners where these prisons are located are on the tape. And they are marking prisoners' deaths as natural causes when it's not natural cause. When they're actually
Well, we've
dying
heard
of
of
lack of
cases-
medical care.
We've heard of cases where families weren't notified of the death.
Yes.
They took him to the coroner, next thing you know, the guy's been incinerated, nobody knows anything.
And that happened to a guy, when was it, he
Yeah.
got the call, and we talked to the DOC, they said they had to be notified within 24 hours of the death.
And it had been it had been a long time in between, and
Yeah, 45
they
days.
would not let the family see the body, they would not let the family do anything, and they, sorry for that.
Well, and this is, you know, I mean, unfortunately in prison, dying of natural causes means you bled to death sometimes. You
Well,
know,
and the other guy that lost
and-
both arms and legs, I mean, Teresa's boyfriend, what was his name, James? Teresa's boyfriend?
I know who you're talking about.
He had Mercer or something, he lost both arms and legs, he actually died
From Mercer, wasn't it?
before they got him to the hospital.
Yeah, but that was from Mercer, I think.
My china cabinet here, you see that urn right there? Huh? You see the urn down there in the corner, right there? China cabinet.
What was that, Vander,
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, here.
Vanderbilt.
V-A-N-D-E-R,
Yep, I see it on the double A on it.
That's Vernon Holland.
L-W-A,
Vernon Holland was my cellie at Allen Correctional Institution, and he died at the medical center, down here last year, and he doesn't have any family or anybody. He's been in prison for 43 years, and I went and picked up his ashes and brought him home. James, I'm not trying to take over your meeting, I'm just rattling on.
No, I wanted to hear this stuff, because a lot, almost everybody here's got.
Yeah, it's,
Their husbands,
Yeah.
I think, are wrongfully convicted, versus, I'm not sure what Karen's from, but
The average length of time between wrongful conviction and exoneration is 9.5 years. And that's because we do not have the types of remedies for persons who have been wrongfully convicted that should exist. And we have another problem too. This is addressed in my book, and I think this is a serious problem. I assume I have no really strong Republican sitting here, is that not right? Okay, are you a strong Republican? Okay, all right, anyway. You know how they're putting all these judges on the courts? Mitch McConnell is loading the courts with really unqualified judges. 25% of them have been held unqualified by the American Bar Association. And the only criteria seems to be that they will not object to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, or they will not object to the overturning of Brown versus Board of Education. They are attempting to put in judges who may well turn our civil rights back 50 or 70 years.
that's already starting though. That's already starting about the civil rights.
Yeah.
If you just see what's happening.
You're starting to see it, yes.
Especially even between the races now,
There-
like it was years ago.
There is a way to cure this, and I presented it to Attorney Greg Cohen out of Cincinnati and Bill Gallagher out of Cincinnati, both of whom are friends of mine, and they both agree that I'm correct. In my book, I have a chapter called All the King's Horses and All the King's
I
Men.
read that.
In that chapter, I took two obscure statistical studies and combined them and proved that in the year 2000, on the 12 United States Courts of Appeals, we decided 11,303 habeas corpus cases in the year 2000. That in order for them to have performed a de novo review, which is required by law, that means you look at the case as though it has never been heard by anybody before. You're looking at it like a court of first instance. In order for them to have performed a de novo review of those 11,303 cases, each judge had to read 866 pages of documents a day. And that was only 30% of their cases. What's happened is we've never redistricted the courts. We've never taken the judicial system and made it comport with the population. In my book, what I advance is take the judges and tie them to the census so that we have enough judges, because what's happening right now is, and here's the real problem lies. They have hired law clerks, they have rooms full of law clerks that look at your cases. Article 3 of the United States Constitution says you are entitled to a judge who has been appointed by the President of the United States, vetted at a hearing for qualifications by the United States Senate, and appointed for life to the federal judiciary so that it removes him from politics. It removes him from having to worry about being reelected. All he has to do is sit there and apply the facts to the law and issue a decision. That's the purpose of the life tenure of federal judges. But when you bring these rooms full of clerks into this, and they're sitting there looking at your case, reading your transcripts, reading everything that's going on, and issuing a summary to the judge with a proposed order attached to it that they wrote. You've got a 28-year-old sitting there submitting an order to your judge that if he doesn't see something really unusual in the case, he just signs it, and that's the order you're getting. Problem is, this 28-year-old law clerk wants a good resume so he can get him a job with a high-dollar law firm as soon as he finishes his clerkship with this judge. It brings political correctness back into the system. It brings the biases and pressure from peers back into the system that the life tenure was designed to remove. So if we take and expand the court system out and put judges in to where Judge Rice, Dayton, has 885 cases on his document, encompassing 250,000 pages.
It's some of the longest
Documents.
sentences came from him.
Yeah, and he can't read all this. He can't see all this. We need more judges to where we can reduce it down to where these clerks, at least, everybody's gonna have clerks. At least the judge has time to look at the cases.
Yeah, look how backed up the immigration judges are. People are waiting
Absolutely
2 years
correct.
to be
That,
heard.
that's another perfect example. And if we take and put in the number that we need in proportion to the number of cases that they have and expand it out, what happens is all these unqualified judges that have been put in there, their votes get watered down. Their votes get watered down. And what's happened, and I'm gonna tell you when this, you wanna read a good book? Read The Wrinkler's Choice by John Dean. Bill Gallagher suggested it to me, I read it. When Roe versus Wade was decided, the Republicans got together with the evangelists and sat down in a cigar smoke-filled room and decided that the only way they were gonna be able to impose their values, their religious values, on all the people is if they owned a course. Since that time, if you go back and look at history and stop and think, all you gotta do is stop and think. When there was a Democrat president that was putting in moderate, middle-of-the-road judges, senators blocking the nomination. When you got a Republican president in, you started hearing, oh, there's so many vacancies on the courts, it's really stopping the effectiveness of the courts, and the cases aren't being heard, and they started putting conservative judges from the Federalist Society. Every one of them is being recommended by the Federalist Society onto the courts. As soon as you get a Democratic judge back, or a president back in again, it's going to appoint somebody that's middle of the road for the independents. Suddenly they're being blocked again, and it's been going on and on and on. And what you're seeing now is accumulation of that.
I'm sorry, what was that book that you said?
I'm sorry?
What was the book?
Oh, it's The Wrinkler's Choice by John Dean.
What's the title of your book?
System Failure, Critique of the Judicial System of the United States.
I'll look for it and send you a copy of it.
I have electronic copies, I don't want to republish. I've had too many people ask me to republish, including many attorneys. Bill Gallagher actually rewrote, the guy that originally published it for me stole it from me, and I had to sue him to get the copyright back. And, Bill Gallagher actually wrote the new foreword in it. And what Bill Gallagher said is the things I'm telling you right now are what attorneys will discuss with a cocktail in their hand back in the corner of a party and won't say in public. And he literally put that in his foreword in my book.
You do have books out? You do have a book out?
I have a book, but it's not published right now. It's on Amazon, but it's not available right now. I've got to republish it.
Yeah, I'll look for an email her a copy, and then she can
That's
email
fine.
to her board.
That's fine. I have no problem.
Did you hear about the meeting coming up on March 3rd at the DRC?
No, she mentioned something about a March 3rd meeting, I believe.
That's what you got in front of you.
Is it to adopt this?
Yeah,
That's what they wanna do, yeah. So when I read that they were, eliminating serious nature of the crime, I rejoiced, because we've been trying to get rid of that for years. Because if you've got a perfect record, but they still wanna hold you, you know, what reason can they find? Well, serious nature of the crime, that's never gonna change. And we always argue, you know, you should be looking at the person, not at the crime. But, Michael Bailey up at Marion pointed out that they're now, if they get rid of serious nature, they want to focus more on community input,
Yeah,
which means it's
the guy with the website.
Vinokur, yeah, and
Yeah.
his buddies. Or maybe one victim's family can get petitions and get a crowd of people to come and protest, and they don't know anything about the guy's record in prison. He could have a perfect conduct record and took all the programs and did everything right, and
There was a woman in Marysville that went in and took every program that DRC had. And when she went in for parole, they gave her another 10 years and told her that her certificate would look nice on the wall if she ever got out. No, I mean, that's, they don't care. They don't, yeah, they don't care.
Well, right now, they're kind of doing away with, in some of the institutes of any programming and stuff, I think there was a, Where is Festival of those guys?
Oh, Marion.
Yeah, one of them Marion and one was Richland.
Marion, Richland, and, no, there was three altogether.
Yeah,
I want to think the other one was Grafton.
could be, but they're trying to take away all programming. And it's.
Oh, that main one is Marion, because that warden that came in from Mansfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Taking everything out of the schools too, just the regular schools, just in general. They're not teaching them cursive anymore, they're not teaching them, like, how
and
is?
cursive kills me that they got rid of that.
Yeah.
Cursive.
Why? Who's
Yeah.
gonna write that? My
It's
daughter,
our
my
top-
daughter is at my daughter's
I
school.
thought they had one there.
No, they print.
It's Prince, huh?
But how do you sign a legal
They
signature?
know how to read
Right.
cursive handwriting. She's
We-
like, what
we
does
would
that
have-
say?
We went down to pick up my mother down to Hilton. I was at the Hilton. And, I was having breakfast one morning, and this gentleman and I were talking, and we got on this discussion, and he said, yeah, he says, I was over there in the hallway, and he said, there's two girls, one was in the bathroom, and the other one came out, and when she came out, she said, there's graffiti on the wall in there, and the girl said, well, what's it say? She said, I don't know, I can't read cursive. She's like a 12-year-old, or 13. Who did this?
Oh, it hasn't been in schools for
Couple years now.
several years,
That
yeah.
surprises me, because, like they said.
The teachers are lazy now. We don't have snow, so they have snow days, and they call them service days. When we had snow, we had snow clean up to this table, and we had still going to school. The buses were still coming to get
The
us.
last time that we had off was in the storm of '78. It was like 2 weeks back then in Cleveland area. That was the only time I remember them not having school.
Yeah, I mean, and like a lot of times, like, you know, if you lived in town, if you didn't ride a bus and you lived in town where you could get to school, you still had to go to school, unless you rode a bus. If you rode a bus, then they count you as absent because you couldn't get there.
You know, one consideration that's missing from this, you know the recidivism rate of prisoners over the age of 40 is either 18.3 or 18.6%.
Yeah, people age out of crime, it's
Yes.
statistically proven.
And it's
Poor
not something
Walpole
that's
doesn't
being
know this
considered.
either.
I mean, Tim Peck's been in prison 47 years.
He's still in?
He's still in, he's at Allen right now. He just called me the other day.
I thought he was out.
No, Tim's been in there 47 years. And that's not unusual. They won't let the old law out. They keep saying they're the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
And that's what I tried to explain on Lock Pearl's site, Lock Pearl.
Run the crowd.
I tried to explain to him, for one, you don't know this guy. That was 30, 40 years ago. You don't know what he's done now. You don't know that person. And how can you judge? And unfortunately, I get on there and call him, not him, but some of his people, it's like, educate yourself, people. You don't know the first thing of what you're talking about. You live in Texas. This guy's in Ohio. You don't know what things he's done, and you don't know that he's been in there 30, 40 years, and he doesn't even have the first thought of any of that. It was a stupid mistake he made many, many years
Well,
ago.
and it's like sex offenses. Most people don't know that 96% of all sex offenses are committed by first-time offenders.
Or not at all.
Well,
Yeah.
all the DNA operations have been sex offenses. That's something else that seems to.
Well, when there's no DNA, it says there's no offense, how do you prove that one?
And that's the problem that I had. And it took me years to get that conviction. And I had to have overwhelming evidence, huh?
You were out of the country at the time.
I was completely out of the country, so how could the offense occur?
I remember that, when you told me that by writing, boy, that had to be 15, 20 years ago.
Yep. Yep, I fought the thing forever.
Well, I also thought that the director had said recently that they were going to allow staff to have an input in parole packets. You know, they'd say, well, you know, I see this guy every day who's sweeping the floor, and he's a good guy, and he helps people, and blah, blah, blah.
That's good and bad.
So, but in, on first page, number B1, it says they're going to eliminate reports prepared by staff.
She just did that in June.
Yeah, so how come they're reversing it already?
In other words, she really has no
Well,
say so.
you have staff like, a guy named Godfrey, that's a unit manager up in Allen. When I was first, after my after the indictment was dismissed, and it was dismissed, and we were waiting on their appeal, he turned around, they took me up to the board, and was talking about giving me a parole, which I eventually refused. I refused the parole. And, he, on the paperwork where it talks about programming, put on there, the first 2 times I saw the board, it was blank. The time after they dismissed the indictment, he put on there that I had refused programming. And I never saw it until after. But he's like that,
Didn't the courts release it?
yeah.
Yeah.
What happened was, I had the case reversed, then I won a motion for new trial, then the trial court judge dismissed the indictment, and the prosecutor appealed it, put his mother-in-law on a 3-judge panel down in Hamilton County, who, the day after she had Christmas dinner with him, went in and reinstated my indictment. And 6 years later, I don't know if you all know Magistrate Mertz or not out of Dayton, but he's he's a holy terror when it comes to inmates. He's one of the worst. But Magistrate Mertz issued a recommendation for an unconditional writ of habeas corpus on 1 count, and the other 3 counts, without me asking sua sponte, he issued certificates of appealability, and Judge Spiegel, who was my judge, went along with that recommendation. At that point, they offered me time served. And I had spent $505,000 in over 20 years in the courts at that point in time. And I had $63,000 left. My attorney wanted $75,000 for the retrial. And I still had a $15,000 appeal to the Sixth Circuit and another $15,000 appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I didn't have the money to take the chance that somewhere along the line I would lose and have to have a retrial. So I went ahead and took the plea for GSI.
And that sadly is what some people have to do to try to get out and fight their own battles. You know, because I know I've been working jobs for a couple of years, and it's hard. It is extremely hard to fight. I've been up to Cuyahoga County, I've been in the prosecutor's office. Right now it's in the 3rd stage of the integrity unit. But it's been a long, hard road, and nobody wants to listen.
No, they don't know this.
Every place I've written to, ACLU, Singleton, everybody, well, we can't, you know.
That's why a lot of them come out,
He was the worst,
Mark Godfrey was the one.
because there's no DNA evidence. And John has a tendency,
Talk to Bill Gallagher, because
But
that
they
was my
have-
case, no
They
DNA.
have a non-DNA section there now at the Innocence Project.
They have at the public defender's office, they've opened
No,
up.
they're
an
interested.
instance.
But they only got one attorney there, one law clerk, one paralegal.
Yeah, I know.
not interested, I talked to,
Elizabeth Moore. Oh, no, you're talking to the pro guy, didn't you, from the DRC?
no, from, public defender's office, I forget his name, it starts with an M.
Oh, I know, you know, the younger guy.
But it's just, it's a hard battle to fight, because, and you can take the case, I've read his case, it's 3,000 pages, I've read it 2 or 3 times. Just so I can keep pulling out.
Eddie Emmerich was 4,000 pages, and Harold Jerry Garmany, that it took me 9 years to get him out, he was a federal prisoner, his transcripts were 9,000 pages, he had an 11-week trial.
Well, the problem with John is that he was tried in, Cuyahoga County, under Bill McGinty and Bill Mason. And McGinty, this was back in '88, McGinty used everything he could possibly use to throw at him. Even made up stories, went to the press with made up stuff. we don't even know what is it, PRC that they put in the file that the prosecutor puts in?
The, pre-trial, yeah.
Yeah, we don't even know what's in
You'll never
that.
see that.
Right.
They hide those.
But we
And
think
you have no idea
McGinty's
what
done
they
some
put in.
really bad damage in that report.
Or Bill Mason, because he pretty much got booted out of there, Bill Mason.
Yeah, so it's been a hell of a road. I mean, how do you tell a jury of your peers that there's no way to tell that a 9-year-old's been raped? Can you believe that? Can you sit there, 12 people sit there and legally say, well, I didn't know that? No, how stupid can you be? And I just get really irritated with, and the prosecutors, I know they're trying to save money and save their own butts, but this is wrong.
And they're exempt
This
from lawsuits.
is wrong.
They get into people's heads, the emotional
Would you
and
be willing,
you have to understand something a lot of people don't know. Prosecutors are assigned to judges for 3 months at a time, quarterly. And when they go in there, they learn that judge's weaknesses and his predispositions.
Well, this
And they
was,
take advantage of that, especially for evidentiary.
this was Friedman's first trial and stuff like this, period.
the judge?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was my dad's friend, too, from Strongville.
it was his first case of whatever. But it went from, rape because he sat there and said that you can't tell if a child's been raped.
That's bullshit.
Exactly, but he got the jury to believe it. So it went from rape to barely touching to just rubbing, and it's like, how can
Rubbing
you
it,
change?
CSI.
How can you
Did the
change?
child have to testify?
Yes,
And,
she
the,
spent 2 days in the prosecutor's office rehearsing,
okay, now,
and she even said it in trial.
she, on the stand, she said that he penetrated.
No,
No, so she never said that he penetrated her.
she denied it 19
Both of
times.
you guys are very similar. They're
She
very
denied it 19 times. It's before trial and after trial. She even had an affidavit, they even have an affidavit of her denying it happened. She just wanted her daddy out of her life.
Because of the anger.
Because, yeah, he was a drug addict and,
What happened with, John's motion? Did somebody look at it, the one that you wanted?
run the head motion,
Yeah.
nobody will look at that.
Tim, would you be willing to do me a favor, look at John's motion for the round the head case, just look over it?
Well, everyone suggests that we need to do a class action with the run to head, and
I agree.
Beverly even agrees with that.
I
too.
agree, yeah, because me and Beverly was talking about that, but, you still would have to get each person to chip in something like they did with the Surratt suit.
Oh, yeah.
And Surratt took our money and as I remember when he came up to Grafton, we were the first camp, and we had to pay him $200, Norm Surratt, you remember that? That Jewish attorney that kind of,
Oh, I know
Stole
what
our
you're
money.
talking about,
stole our money and
Norman.
Yeah.
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 But, do you know anybody that would be willing to take with class action lawsuit on, like the Robert, Rhonda Head case? You know something about Rhonda Head, don't you? I tell you.
Rhonda Head went to the parole board first time. I think she had 15 years or something.
Yeah, they were dying.
And they gave her time, and she got a hold of this attorney, I can't remember his name now.
ACLU and Davidson?
No, he worked individually.
Oh.
Singleton got involved. This guy got a new job at ACLU, didn't want to lose the case, didn't want it to go away. So he took the case with him to ACLU. So then when ACLU had it, Singleton jumped on board, this other law firm jumped on board, and they fought, and she just got out at the end of, I think, January, wasn't it? She just got out, they just showed it with her coming out the gates.
I hadn't heard anything about it.
First time parole. Instead of getting flunked, she did. No one wants to take it on. I've called every law firm, I've offered money, no one wants to do it, because nobody wants to take on the referral for it.
And so we need an attorney that would, be willing to take it, even if the inmate says they have to pay a certain amount, maybe pay so much out of the state pay, because a lot of people don't have family. But we need an attorney that would be able to, take on something like that, because you talk about several hundred people probably.
You could try Greg Cohen. Cincinnati.
What's his name?
Greg Cohen.
Can you-
Cincinnati. Greg's a criminal trial attorney, but Greg.
Can you text me his information? Can you text me his
Yeah,
information?
I got his
We do
contact.
need to get back on.
I got his cell phone. Greg, in fact, he called me on the case last week to ask my advice on something.
Oh, could you talk to him since you know?
I'll talk to Greg.
All right.
Put him in contact.
But John's been in, his sentence was 10 to life, based on the 88.
That's not his cup of tea. He's literally a criminal trial attorney, but he's in Bill Gallagher's building down there. It's like 30 attorneys in there.
Right.
He rode with all his friends of mine, Bill and Greg and what's the other guy's name?
Well, they sentenced John Rum, and if he was 10 to life, because that took effect in '96. Because I talked to Bill on that.
But, I understand that, but when we were at, DRC last time, I said, I don't understand, because all along it said 15 to life, all along. And now it's changed to 10 on the system. And that's when Chamber Smith said,
His sentence said 15 to life. What did the sentencing transcript say?
15 to life.
That's what the sentence said.
Well, they changed it to 10.
Can't change it.
And I said, when we were with Chamber Smith, I said, it's always been 15, I don't understand why it just went to 10. She goes, well, he should be glad it's less.
The executive cannot change a court order. That's a
And then-
violation.
Yeah,
of
until they let him
separation
out
of
and then
powers.
blame it on him and put him back in because.
Right.
Exactly, I think we talked about that in the chat, that, that someone, there seems to be a bunch of people now that all their sentences are in there wrong or something, or I don't know how many, but you had quite a few, didn't you?
I've had 2 or 3
Yeah.
made that time as well.
So it's like, like I think you said, or somebody said, how'd you like to be walking out the door and then say, oh, wait a minute, we were wrong, you got 5 more
You
years.
got 10 more years,
They
yeah.
actually told my friend to release him, and he said, I'm gonna sit down here before you all lose your dogs, because I still have like 25 more years. I just hit flat time, and it was up. And they were like, we can't keep you, like I told you. He said, I'm gonna sit down right here, because if I walk out, I'm not coming back, and you will all lose your dogs, because I'm telling you, you don't know. So he said he sat there for about 4 hours, and they were like, let's go, sorry. So things like that happen, so there's some problems, but not to, like, sidetrack you guys. This paper, B1, do we know what that risk assessment tool is? Has anybody been able to contact the department and obtain that? Because they have not had a grid in I don't know how long. And is that the grid? Is it coming back?
That ORAS thing, that used to be the assessment tool, I don't know.
I thought they were getting rid of ORAS.
They haven't
They said
used,
that a couple of years
they
ago.
haven't used the grid in years or anything like that, the tool. So I would be interested into where that is. I'll try to track that down. Also, the reports, if you turn to page 2, number 5, it looks like they will they'll take reports. I think what they did is they just crossed it out of 1 and put it into 2. And I think the problem that I have with this, regarding, nature of the crime, is that there is, like, they don't have to tell you who complains or who is talking, regardless if it comes from, a judge or anybody. So, I actually know of a person who did flat time, went back up, and the person that was complaining on him, I believe, was from the time that he had done flat time. That time was served, it was they didn't contact the person from the current time, they contacted who they wanted to. That time was already done. So then they came back at him and said, well, you've had a community resistance. Now, the mother of the person involved from the original crime has always said, I don't mind if he gets out, it was a long time ago, they were kids, it's fine. But then they went on this other case. So that's the problem, is that they do not have to tell you who says what, who is requesting you not be released. These people have already went to court. They've already talked to the police, however long ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, however long. Why can't we know now? Because we already know. So I feel like it's because they want to just like, bring them in all over again. Why hide them?
Are you familiar with the history of the Star Chamber in England?
I am not.
If you get an opportunity to read it, it's a good argument against that. It was in ecclesiastical court where they could literally take hearsay from neighbors and not have to call witnesses or anything in order to justify imprisonment. And it was done away with.
Okay. I don't think that the change in two would be that bad if they were made to tell who's saying what.
That was the whole thing of the Star Chamber, it was all anonymous.
Because nature of the crime hurts them too much. And I think that people had to be honest and say, well, this is what I think and this is what I think.
And that's my question, that's my problem too with the people that hear what the victims are saying. These people went to court 10, 20, 30 years ago, however long, five days ago, okay? They had their opportunity to say everything. And trust me, if you had someone like McGinty, they're gonna drag it through the court, they're gonna bring out everything that they possibly can.
Right.
Then how 10 or 15, 20 years later do you keep coming up with a different reason, story to keep them in? In other words, like, it should have been brought up in trial. You can't sit there and take a victim's word for something that wasn't brought up in that trial. Because now they're just hunting for reasons to keep a person in. And that's exactly what's happened to John both times. That they believed what the daughter and the prosecutor, who wasn't even involved, said to the parole board. And so they yanked one parole from him, and the second parole, they just said a bunch of bullshit, and she did too. The daughter did. And how do you come, that's my biggest problem with all of this is, and I've explained this to Chambers Smith, if a victim comes in and it's a completely different story, 20 years later, why aren't you investigating that? Why aren't you looking that up to see if that really happened in the trial, or whatever? Because if not, that's a bold-faced lie. You had the opportunity before the trial and after the trial to say all this stuff. And now you're bringing it up 20 years later. Give me a break. And that's my biggest thing with things like that.
I don't remember the specifics of this case. I did a case in Dayton where the victim signed an affidavit stating that they had lied at trial.
She did too.
And the prosecutor literally took a police officer to the woman's home and threatened to take her children away if she didn't sign an affidavit refuting the affidavit that she had signed.
And that's what they did to John's daughter, signed an affidavit saying she had lied, that she just wanted her daddy out of her life. She lied all about it.
Right there should have gotten him out.
McGinty took a police officer, went to her again and made her say, oh, I lied about lying.
Yeah.
Another
I did
affidavit.
that in Dayton, in a
case that I was in, that's common.
And they can keep doing that?
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
I don't see how it could be legal though. but-
Well, it's not legal, but then again, anything's legal if you're the prosecutor.
Yeah, nothing they do is legal.
Let me give you an example of a case that I did in the county that I'm living in now, it may come back to haunt me. 1996, 95, over in Chillicothe, a gentleman was in there doing 13 and a half years on a technical security violation named Dale Norman. Case is in the United States Court of Appeals, the Sixth Circuit reported it, Norman versus McGanish. Mr. Norman had went to Guernsey County, Ohio. A gentleman named Leon Eden was running a business there, and he had issued debentures to several businessmen in the county. And Mr. Norman was from California. He was a Canadian citizen who had opened a venture capital company in California. And Mr. Eden wanted him to raise venture capital for him. When in the course of that, he asked Mr. Norman if he would convert the debentures to limited partnerships. Well, when he did this, he had an attorney with him, and because they were not, Mr. Norman was not familiar with Ohio Blue Sky laws under Title 17, they told him that they would file, and all that was required was a one-page notice of exemption filed within 90 days of the debentures being converted to limited partnerships. They didn't file it. They arrested Mr. Norman, took him and were taking him to trial. Mr. Norman, because the element of the crime was knowingly, subpoenaed Mr. Eden and subpoenaed the attorney because they had told him they were going to file this. So he did not knowingly not file this piece of paper, would have been acquitted. Well, the morning of the trial, the prosecutor, Charles Keith Plummer, who is running for re-election in Guernsey County right now, he lost his job over this case. And his trial court judge lost a federal judgeship, and the captain of the sheriff's department had to resign over this case. Mr. Plummer got up in front of the judge and the jury and defense counsel and told them that the last he'd heard of Leon Edens, he was somewhere in Australia and he didn't know where to find him. Well, the truth of the matter was, and we received NCIC teletypes in an envelope with no return address at Chillicothe to prove this, was the night before at 6:30, Captain Van Horn in his office, he was in contact with San Diego, California County Jail, telling them to hold Mr. Edens until further notice. Now, he got up on the record and told the judge that they didn't know where he was. It was a criminal civil rights violation. The prosecutors, when we filed this with the FBI in Cincinnati, Agent Eddie Woods is the one that took the case, literally had to go to the Attorney General of the United States to get permission to open a full field investigation into the prosecutor because he was an elected county official. Now, you ask why prosecutors can get away with this. That's why it's so difficult to do anything with them. I mean, you literally have to get this prosecutor to ask the grand jury to indict himself because he's the one that brings the indictment.
And the other thing, if you guys will go to page 3, if you look at 11, a lot of these people, like they have been locked up for years and years and years, and they don't have jobs. So how's that gonna mean anything?
And
then,
residents,
Yeah, what did they mean under D2, pro-social associations?
like churches and stuff, or groups.
Well,
I
if
think
you've been
that's
locked
what
up
they
for
mean.
30 years, how can you have any associations in your community?
Because they don't care.
Okay, just like Joe. Joe's been down 27 years. He's old. He don't have a body. He don't have nothing. The reason they're keeping him is conduct reports. I have finally got through to his head. He's got to stop. Whether he's got to sit in his cell, whatever, you know. Joe has got this mindset that if somebody comes to him the wrong way,
They
stupid.
disrespect him, he's gonna bust them up.
Exactly.
That's, you know, that's.
Joe has gotten 30-some certificates, he takes every class. Now he's actually teaching in a church. You know, he's teaching the younger generations, the preacher, priest, whoever's in there. Came to him and said, hey, can you lead class? Joe said, no problem. And Joe said, I try and get through these kids' head, look, this is not the life you want to live.
You know that's another reason they keep him? Because he keeps down problems, and the older inmates are peacemakers.
Right, exactly.
We attempt to protect the young, protect the ones that can't defend themselves until they can get their feet on the ground.
Right.
When they come through the door, and that's one of the reasons that they're reluctant to let them go.
Right, when Joe got sentenced, the judge looked at his parents and said he should have just killed somebody, he would have got less time.
He might have been.
He was a driver of his friend went into a convenience store and robbed him. And then Joe ended up, well, they escaped juvie. You know, Joe's 16, 17 years old. That's how long he's been locked up. So yeah, he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have anything. But, you know, I have really calmed him down in the last 4 years we've been together. But yeah, Joe was his first, they sent him straight to Lucasville. So he was in there when that big riot started. Joe did join,
Yeah, I was warned that.
Joe did join a gang. He got out of it in 08. So, you know, Joe's just got a lot of respect for himself now.
Which gang did he get in?
He's white, 93, think about that.
He's
And
a,
the problem with his case that really troubles me is he was so young when he went in. So if anyone was around in life, 93, 94, 95, it was rough. Now how it is like kinder and gentler. The kids go in, they're playing their games and all this. So then you have a guy like Joe who's been down where it's old school. I mean, it's old school. It was rough. So you have these kids, okay, talking crazy to you. They don't know how to fight. They are out on the street with their guns, and it's prison. There's no crime in prison. There's a lot of stuff. Like, you gotta be tough. And so, yeah, as you age, when you're young and you go in, as you age, you have to still keep that respect, or you're gonna have a lot of little people taking your stuff, robbing you, this, and I think that the board really does not comprehend that whole thing. You're
They don't know the
talking about
environment
people
they created.
being down 20, 30 years.
yeah.
And as times are changing now, it is. It's a gentler, kinder place to be. 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't. It was rough. So when you're a kid and you're coming in, you are either prey or you are preyed upon, and there is nowhere in between. And now, as he's getting older and you've got other people coming in, it is still the same. But what happens is the old timers, not trying to be with you guys, but the old timers can fight. And the young people, they have to have groups.
Yes.
Well,
So if he's got a person talking crazy to him, yeah, this is prison. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that this is prison.
yeah.
But in the last, since Gary Moore did the tier section about 5, 6 years ago, we've had more deaths in Ohio prisons. You know, in the last 3 years, we've had it more under the tier system. Up at Ross itself, in I think it was 2 years, they had 6 deaths up at Ross. The whole time when I got locked up from 87 till say the mid-90s, I really think the violence was not nearly as bad as it is now. Because I'm talking to some of the people today, these young kids, you're getting more fights, more rapes occurring, and more suicides occurring. Just up at Lucasville, this last week, they had 2 suicides, back-to-back cells, which is kind of fishy because they both were 19 or 20 years old, and it was you know, next door to each other, and K-Block, which is segregation, one of them is. I mean, it wasn't when I was there, so I don't.
You have K-Ball is
Right.
segregation, because that's where Joe was.
Right, but,
K-5 is a mental health unit.
Yeah.
That's a nut house.
wasn't it eight
Yeah.
before K-8 wasn't mental
I
health?
think so at one time, but K-5, when I was there, was a mental health unit, and boy, you got
Right.
crazy people in it.
And remember too, the population is getting younger and younger,
Well, you had the Harvest Felons, you popped up in Belmont, so.
Yeah.
They just
had to
started.
split them.
Yeah.
about 9 years ago, they
Yeah.
came up on the juvenile system, and that's why they wrote out about 30 people from Marion at one time. They caused a lot of problems there, and they were attacking older people in the yard. It was not black versus white, it was young versus the older people and the disabled
And the
people.
older ones were catching cases, because they put some steel in it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
They still will, though.
Yeah.
But they're badass.
This
I
is-
don't-
this-
I don't got, there's no other way to say it.
There was a
It's not
time,
gonna put up with
Joe, I'm sorry, Karen.
Oh, no, honey.
2 years ago when Joe was at Madison, he was in the hole and he was walking to visit. He ended up, somebody didn't like him, came and hit him with a tray full of stuff. Do you know who got in trouble?
He did for fighting back.
He didn't even fight back because he was handcuffed.
Really? Oh, he was cuffed.
He,
Yeah, you
he
told me
got
about
in
that.
Yeah, he shouldn't have
trouble
got in trouble for that.
because he's old law.
They do
That's
that in
why.
Madison, Madison's bad. They don't care about old law, and Karen's right, I mean,
We got about
your kids in there,
I went through Madison, I didn't like Madison at all.
the kids in there are horrible.
Yeah.
Well, there was an article in the paper not long ago, and it said the DRC wants to tighten security at their prisons because 1 in 3 inmates is a violent offender. That's kind of
Wasn't
scary.
it always though? I
Depending
mean,
on how you
how they
define
used to say,
violent offender.
anybody had violence up at CRC when I was a cadre there, 'cause I went through Old Mansfield, I didn't go through Lorraine, it wouldn't go, but when I was a cadre there, anybody, even domestic violence, they put them in the cell. Anybody with a minor offense, they put them on the floor, and there was like 5 people only on the floor. They consider everybody else to be violent. So, and they still do it that way. I think up in Lorraine, they have a couple hundred bunks on the bed.
I'll tell you, one of the worst things that happened in the prison system was when they appointed Ernie Moore as the director, and Voinovich came in and removed him, that biggest mistake they've ever made. Ernie Moore trained under, Tony Pagano.
Yeah, we
Ernie Moore was the institutional inspector at Warren when I was there.
Who?
And Ernie Moore was the institutional inspector at Warren when I was there. I knew Ernie that long, to the point of where, when as director, he visited Allen.
He was at Luke too.
Yeah, he wasn't, and he was at Chile as a deputy warden, Chile, he was at Chile as a deputy warden after he left Warren.
Yeah, we got like 10
When,
minutes.
when I was at Allen, this is funny, Ernie and I had known each other this long. I'm out on the yard, and Ernie's there with Gordon, the major, the captains, and all of them around him, right? He sees me coming across the yard, and he said, "Y'all hold up a minute," walks over and starts walking across the yard with me. I loved Ernie Moore. He was a corrections professional.
Yeah.
He was a good man. He trained under Tony Pagano. Tony Pagano was formerly a federal warden, and he was professional. Tony Pagano walked the yard all day long. And if you had a problem, you walked up to Tony Pagano. Tony Pagano was going to get on the phone and take care of it. He was a good warden, and we need more wardens like that. And Ernie Moore would have appointed more wardens like Tony Pagano. And it would have been a much better system all the way around. And he'd done something with parole board. He'd jerked a knot in the parole board because he knew the problems they were creating. So I don't know if anybody has any influence inside the Department of Corrections, but getting Ernie Moore back as a director would be great.
Yeah, I've talked to him quite a few, just in the last.
Tell him I said hello.
Oh, I will. So, while you're here, so, you gonna join our board too?
Okay, I will.
Do I get to join the board?
No, you
I'm
can
gonna
join
get
us.
going.
Okay.
I gotta go. Nice meeting you guys. Yes, I gotta go. I gotta be someplace at 3:15. But it was nice to meet all of you. Karen Phelps.
Karen Timmons.
Jim, yeah,
Nice to meet you.
we're po-
And I say,
We're gonna post some
but
multiple
yeah, I
convictions.
gotta be
Or
someplace.
I like your input on it. And like Terry, I don't know, Bobby doesn't, it should have been my name, me, but
Jim Love. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you much.
Ella Karen, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, totally.
I will.
Jim Love.
Yes. James
No,
Franklin Love the fourth.
I got letters from him and Karen that are yellow from the early nineties. That's how long I've known both of them.
I spent years teaching people the law through the mail.
You used to see this little
I
picture
am
of Jim
learning.
Love in the news
I'm
Carolina,
learning,
Ohio
like,
newsletter.
That's why I try and, when somebody starts to teach me, because I don't know the law like that. I mean, Joe is literally the first one that I have had to fight for,
Yeah.
you know? And he got 32 to 70 years.
How much did you get?
Understand something
32
about
to
jailhouse
70.
lawyers.
Damn, you should've got
that
like yours
Department
on
of
your
Correction. Department of Correction.
Like me too, 31.
Jailhouse lawyers,
Hey,
good,
no.
and there's only a few good jailhouse lawyers.
You know, yes,
Matt
last
Mason,
time, yes, we all of it.
Well, Joe was
What's his
buddies
name?
with John Peretti.
John Parati.
Right.
John,
Wasn't there
I think died in federal prison.
Yeah,
No,
John,
Dorothy.
is he still, huh?
Dorothy's correctional.
Yeah,
That's a
he
private
was-
prison.
Is that where he died?
No, yeah.
Okay. But John was 2 cells down from me on my range at Lucas. John and I have been friends for years. John Parati was good, but John was civil work. John wasn't really criminal work.
He was really
Matt
good.
Mason, civil or criminal, either one. Matt's brilliant.
Joe
Jerry
Bryan.
McNean, huh?
Probably knew his stuff.
Mike Bailey's excellent. Mike Bailey's a hell of
How
a
about
jailhouse
Marion?
lawyer.
Yeah.
And Muldoon was his buddy. They're the two that filed the Thompson suit against London. But one thing people don't understand, and you'll never hear about jailhouse lawyers, that you have to really stop for a second once it's pointed out to you and the light bulb comes on. You know what we do? We point out errors that attorneys and judges and prosecutors make.
right.
We have to know the law better than them to do that.
I don't know much about the law.
Me, and that's what I'm saying, I'm like learning that every time he goes to the parole board, like this last time, they gave him 5 years, so he goes up again November of 22. I know he's gonna get flopped again, because he's got 2 tickets holding over him. That Madison, there was a fight between 2 of his friends, but he was walking down, he said, I could have seen me getting in trouble for out of place, because I was in that cell, because his buddy said, hey, come here, can I talk to you? Can you please talk to this, but your buddy, and, you know,
Calm things down.
calm things down so he doesn't beat me up. Well, dude came in and just, Joe's like, it was 7 punches. Dude busted the other dude's nose. Joe went and got medical. Joe cleaned up the blood. But guess what? And there were statements saying that Joe had no part into it. Guess what? He got sent to OSP. After a year, that's why he was in the
They're
hole.
doing that on his record because he has so many conduct reports.
Right, right. And that's why, and I've been talking to a couple people, and they're like, you need to tell him no conduct reports, period.
I'm gonna tell you something.
But it's hard when you got some,
When you're in that situation, it's hard to go conduct.
yeah.
The gentleman I told you, the federal prisoner, it took me 9.5 years to get out of prison,
Mhm.
okay? They had him sentenced, number 1, for life without parole. And I got him out because when he was originally sentenced, there was no life without parole sentence. The statute didn't come into effect for the next year. They sent that man to Marion, Illinois,
Mhm.
and put him in solitary confinement for 8 years.
Wow.
8 years.
Can you imagine?
I'll tell you what, look in this old man's eyes. They were blue, they were cold as ice. 8 years he did in solitary.
Wow.
His wife sent me a Christmas card. When they arrested the old man, I thought he was a federal prisoner, okay? They seized real property in 363 cities and a $600 million offshore bank account in I'm ready to move.
The way they're doing Old Dog Guys is so bad. We know a buddy, Pander, he was, at Trumbull, he got moved to Grafton. He has no conduct reports at all, none. His mom just died, she was 80 years old. You know, no trouble. Oh, you're a good role model. Oh, wow, it's like that? Okay.
You can't get out with a good role model.
Yeah, you're a good role model, do I?
Well, that's the thing with role models, most of them are
Yeah.
great role models and stuff, and so my feeling's always been that they keep them there because once you use them, they're on the
To create less drama.
Yeah.
Create, I know they don't want trouble.
Right. Yeah. Well, when Joe was at OSP, they moved him to Lucasville because there was a riot getting ready to happen. And they know that Joe has a lot of respect. There was going to be a fight, a big riot between KF